Hello. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about proper methods of prepping your aquarium, and this can be used either for freshwater or saltwater. One of the things that a lot of newbies make mistakes on, me personally, I made this mistake when I first did my tank, is that they don't properly clean an aquarium. You might think since you're getting a brand new tank that you don't need to do anything to it because it's brand new, it's just ready to go. Well, that's not really quite the case. As is often the case, a lot of times manufacturers, particularly Aqueon, will like to do things where they put stickers and other such things on the inside of the tank. The problem is when you remove them, there is adhesive residue left on the glass, which can leach into the tank and can cause problems for it. So I will cover for both new and used today in this, just the proper method for making sure that they're clean, sanitized, thoroughly cleaned out so that you don't have any issues with that. Let's talk about a couple of things you do not want to use on the inside of your tank. Anything soap-based, anything oil-based, do not use on your tank at all to clean or to prep it. You also want to make sure that you're using certain select things for the cleaning of the inside of the tank, and I'm going to go ahead and give those to you right now. Your best single touch-up go-to cleaner is white distilled vinegar. And I say white distilled vinegar because the red stuff has a tendency to stain and can discolor. So just go with plain white distilled vinegar. It's not expensive to buy at all. Just do that and take a little cloth or whatever and just do a white distilled vinegar or water mix and just wipe it down real good, and that should get rid of that adhesive residue on there. If you do have some remainder stuff, what you can do is you can do water and just use a little bit of the table salt to make it kind of like a little salt scrub thing, and then you can work on that and get that out. Once you're done with that, you can wash out your tank. You can honestly, even depending on the size of your tank, you could put it potentially in your bathtub or shower and just hose it out with the shower head. I've used that method before, and at least for my 36, it seems to work pretty well. Obviously, if you've got a really big tank, like 100-gallon or something, you're going to have to come up with another method as far as, hosing it out, spraying it out. Then you wipe it down. I usually just use some paper towels and just sit there and just wipe it out real good until it dries out. And then I do let it air dry for a period of 24 hours just to make sure that any chlorine residue or whatever that might be in the tap water has thoroughly evaporated. That way that becomes a non-issue for you. And after that, you're just ready to go. You can start putting your stuff in your tank, whether it be a freshwater configuration or saltwater configuration. Excuse me. For used tanks, the procedure is a little bit different. What's generally recommended is you do a bleach water cycle on the tank and the filtration and basically all the equipment you're going to be using within the tank. For the filtration, particularly if you got hang-on back filters or whatever, you want to make sure, obviously, you don't have any filter media in there. No carbon, no nothing. Just basically, it's just the filter itself, just running water just straight through it. It's not filtering anything. It's just running water through it. That's all you're doing. What I did with my 36 was I filled it up most of the way, and then put in about 2 gallons of bleach water. So there's various different claims as far as mixtures, but I would recommend that you just look into it a little bit and just see what works for you. I mean, generally, if you can smell a certain amount of bleach in the water without it being overpowering, you probably got something close to the right mixture. So what you do is you run that for a period of 24 hours. If you're looking at salt water or whatever, you got a power head and some other equipment with it, run that with it. That will help take care of it. And then what you do, same thing like I mentioned before with the new tank, you just thoroughly rinse it out, wipe it down, and then once again let it air dry for 24 hours to ensure that any bleach or chlorine residue is thoroughly evaporated and gone. But I usually spend about 15 to 20 minutes during the hose down process, just thoroughly just rinsing and rinsing and rinsing that tank just to make sure you get all that out of there. The next step in the process is to, if you're looking at a used tank, is to run a vinegar cycle. Once again, white distilled vinegar. In my case, with the 36 gallon, I filled it up most of the way and then filled a couple of gallons worth of white distilled vinegar in there and then ran it through the hang-on back filters, ran my power head, all that stuff, just running, just once again with no filter media in it whatsoever. You just let it cycle through. After that, you follow the same process. You thoroughly rinse it out, spray it down, hose it out, wipe it down, let it dry, and let it air dry once again for 24 hours to make sure any residual is gone. For me, I also did the additional added thing where I took, once these cycles were all done, I took my hang-on back filters and hooked them up over a small bucket, filled it with purified RO water, and just let it run through just to make sure that it got an extra little run-through cycle of clean, usable water that fish and corals could use before I actually went and hooked it up to my tank. Once again, I'm not sure that you necessarily have to do this. For me personally, I just, it is an additional precaution. Once you let the air dry finish on the vinegar cycle, you should be ready to go with a used tank. You can also use this method for, like in my case where I had a catastrophe. I'm embarrassed to say, but we actually did it. We ended up using a little bit of Goo Gone to clean the tank initially. Don't ever do that. It's an oil-based thing. And basically, I got a mini Exxon Valdez oil slick situation going on in my tank, which, if you know anything about, especially in a saltwater tank, mixing oil and salt water, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the ocean out there, and it doesn't work in your tank. So you definitely don't want to use anything, once again, soap-based or oil-based, just simply because it's so hard to get rid of all that additional residue. And as such, it's not a good means for cleaning your tank. So once again, I would stick to, as your go-to methods, initially, white distilled vinegar and water mix for cleaning those residue spots, as well as a salt scrub base for those harder to get spots, just kind of a moist salt scrub, and that's really about all you should be doing. And then of course rinsing it out with just regular water is fine. But that should keep everything within parameters, and as I said, you can also use that used method for used tanks that you might buy off Craigslist or whatever, or in the event of a catastrophic failure. I don't use bleach unless it's an absolute last resort, so only use that, or a used tank. So anyways, but yeah, your go-to methods, once again, white distilled vinegar or salt scrub, and then thoroughly rinse out. The other advantage is that'll get rid of, you're always going to have some of those machine bits of plastic and whatever that get in your tank. And by doing the even just the touch-up method and then spraying it out or whatever, that'll help get rid of all that excess crap so it's not in your tank. So that's basically how you prep your tanks, whether it be new or used, and thanks for watching.